At 15, I was thrown out in a storm over a lie. She never imagined what get out would trigger. Get out! Thunder cracked so loudly the windows rattled. I was 15, barefoot, holding a backpack with 2 hoodies and a math textbook inside. "Mom, I didn't take it," I said. "You were the only one home," she snapped. $300 doesn't just disappear. $300. That was the number that destroyed my childhood. Rain hammered the porch roof. My stepfather stood behind her, silent, arms crossed like a security guard at a bank vault. "It was in my purse this morning," Mom said. "Now it's gone. I won't raise a thief." I had never stolen anything in my life, but my older stepbrother, Kyle, had a habit of borrowing things that weren't his. He was 19, recently unemployed, constantly angry, and somehow never blamed. "Check Kyle's room," I said. That was my mistake. Her face hardened. "Don't you dare accuse him!" The door opened. The storm roared. "Get out! When you're ready to tell the truth, you can come back." Lightning lit up the driveway like a camera flash. I stepped outside, and the door locked behind me. The rain was cold enough to sting. I stood there for a full minute, expecting the door to reopen. It didn't. So I walked. 3 blocks down, my sneakers filled with water. By the time I reached the bus stop bench, I was shaking. I pulled my phone from my pocket. 2% battery. I called my best friend, Tasha. Her mom answered. "Sweetheart, it's almost 10. What's wrong?" "I need a place to stay." Silence. Then, "Come here, now." That night, I learned 2 things. 1, blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. 2, humiliation burns hotter than lightning. The next morning, Kyle texted me, "You shouldn't have snooped." I hadn't snooped, but that text told me everything. He took the money and let me take the blame. Mom didn't call. Not that day, not the next. 2 weeks later, she showed up at Tasha's house. "You can come home if you apologize," she said. "For what?" "For lying." I stared at her. "I didn't take the money." "Then where is it?" "Gone. Probably spent. Probably on whatever Kyle needed that week. But the issue wasn't the $300 anymore. It was that she chose him every time. So I didn't apologize. I packed the rest of my clothes from her house under supervision like I was on probation, and I left. That was the night something shifted inside me. If money could get me thrown away, then I would learn everything about it. Every rule, every loophole, every power it gave. At 16, I got a part-time job at a grocery store. At 17, I opened my first checking account. At 18, I left for college on scholarships and stubbornness. Mom sent exactly 1 email during my freshman year. "Hope you're doing okay." No apology, no acknowledgement. Kyle, meanwhile, crashed 2 cars and borrowed thousands more from her over the years. She always covered for him, always bailed him out. I built credit, he built excuses. By 22, I was working in finance, entry-level, long hours, obsessed with understanding how money really moves, not just salaries, assets, equity, debt leverage. Because I learned early, if you don't control money, someone else uses it against you. Then, 10 years after the storm, my phone rang. It was my mother, crying, and what she said next made me sit down. "Kyle, he's in serious trouble."
"Kyle's in serious trouble," my mother said between sobs. I didn't ask how serious. When Kyle was involved, serious usually meant expensive. "What happened?" I asked. He took out loans." "Of course he did. How much?" Silence. Then a whisper. 75,000. I leaned back in my chair. Personal loans? And credit cards. And a business line of credit. Business? Kyle had never held a job longer than 8 months. He said he was investing, Mom continued. Crypto, real estate flipping, some online trading group. Translation, fast money fantasies. And now? He defaulted. They're threatening legal action. Legal action. The same phrase that once haunted me over medical bills didn't scare me anymore. I worked in risk analysis now. I read financial statements the way other people read horoscopes. Why are you calling me? I asked. He put the house up as collateral. That got my attention. The house. The same porch where I stood in the rain at 15. You co-signed? I asked slowly. I didn't understand the paperwork, she said. You didn't understand, but you understood how to lock a door. When did this happen? Last year. So she'd known for months. And you waited to call me until now? They're moving to foreclose. There it was, the storm again. Just financial this time. How much equity is left? I asked. I don't know. Of course she didn't. I opened my laptop. What's the mortgage balance? She gave me the number. I pulled estimated property value data from public records. They had roughly $180,000 in equity, which meant Kyle didn't just borrow, he leveraged hard. If foreclosure starts, the lender takes priority. You could lose everything, I said. She began crying harder. I tried to help him, he said. He just needed time. Kyle always needed time. At 15, I needed protection. Didn't get it. Now she needed strategy. You can't file bankruptcy with the house tied to that loan without consequences, I said. What do I do? It was the first time in my life she asked me that. What do I do? Not what did you do, not why did you lie, just help. I asked one question. Did he really invest the money? Another pause. No. Where did it go? Bad trades, luxury apartment, 2 leased cars, online gambling, business coaching. $75,000 evaporated into ego. I closed my eyes. $300. That was all it took to exile me. $75,000 barely triggered a boundary. I can review the documents, I said. Would you? She whispered. I drove to the house the next evening. Same siding, same porch. A different version of me. Kyle's car wasn't there. Inside, stacks of unopened mail covered the kitchen table. Final notices, default warnings, legal disclosures. I scanned everything. Interest rates north of 18%, penalty clauses, personal guarantee language that tied my mother directly to the debt. This wasn't just reckless, it was catastrophic. Why didn't you call me sooner? I asked. She stared at the floor. I was ashamed. Ashamed? I almost laughed. Ashamed of the son who burned her credit, not the daughter she burned in the rain. I organized the documents into 3 piles: salvageable, negotiable, dangerous. One loan stood out, a private lender, aggressive terms, clause allowing accelerated foreclosure within 30 days of default. How far behind is this one? 2 payments. 2. My stomach tightened. If they trigger acceleration, they can demand the full balance immediately. She looked at me panicked. Can they really do that? Yes, and based on the language, they probably would. Then the front door opened. Kyle walked in, smirked when he saw me. Wow, the prodigy returns. I didn't smile back, because I had just noticed something in the loan agreement that changed everything.
Kyle tossed his keys onto the counter. "So you're the family hero now?" he said. I ignored him, because the clause I had just read wasn't small. It was fatal. The private lender's agreement required all collateral owners to sign an updated disclosure if the loan was modified. Only Kyle had signed the modification, not my mother, meaning the acceleration clause might not be enforceable against her portion of the property. Sloppy paperwork, predatory lender, rushed signature. I looked up at him. "Did you read what you signed?" He laughed. "Relax, it's just pressure tactics." "It's legally binding." He shrugged. That shrug told me everything about his financial literacy. Nothing had changed since we were kids. He still gambled. He just used larger numbers. I turned to my mother. "Did you sign any updated documents after the original loan?" "No." "Good." Kyle frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means if they try to accelerate foreclosure, we may have leverage to challenge enforceability." He stared blankly. Leverage was a foreign language to him. Over the next week, I did 3 things. First, I contacted a real estate attorney specializing in predatory lending. Second, I negotiated directly with 2 unsecured creditors to freeze penalties. Third, I ordered a full credit report on my mother. The damage was worse than she realized. Late payments across multiple lines. Credit score in free fall. Kyle had stacked debt like unstable Jenga, one push away from collapse. The attorney confirmed my suspicion. The modification paperwork was incomplete. If the lender moved to accelerate foreclosure, we could dispute it in court. Not a guarantee, but enough to stall. Time. That was the real currency. Kyle cornered me in the hallway one night. "You think you're better than me now?" "No," I said calmly. "I think I read before I sign." He stepped closer. "I didn't mean for it to get this bad." "That's the problem," I replied. "You never mean to." 2 weeks later, we received the official acceleration notice. Demand for full payment. 30 days. The attorney filed a response within 48 hours, citing defective documentation. The lender pulled back, temporarily. They offered restructuring instead of foreclosure. Higher interest, longer term, still dangerous, but survivable. I created a structured repayment plan tied to one condition. Kyle sells both leased cars, liquidates remaining speculative accounts, gets a documented job within 60 days, and signs a formal agreement transferring 50% of future property proceeds to my mother exclusively if she ever sells. He resisted, until I made it clear, I am not here to save you, I'm here to protect her. For the first time, he didn't smirk. Cars were returned, losses were realized, ego bruised. The house stayed, not because Kyle deserved saving, but because I refused to let history repeat itself. The night before I returned home, my mother stood on the porch. Same porch, different storm. "I was wrong," she said quietly. No excuses, no defensiveness, just 4 words. It didn't erase 15-year-old me standing in the rain, but it shifted something. "You chose him," I said softly. "I know." We stood there in silence. I thought protecting him made me a good mother. I didn't realize I was sacrificing you. Money exposes priorities. Always has. When I got back to my apartment, I opened my investment dashboard. Net worth strong, credit pristine, emergency fund secure. Not because I was lucky, because I was never going to be powerless again. Kyle still has years of repayment ahead. My mother still has rebuilding to do. But the house stands, and so do I. Here's the truth. Have you ever signed something without reading it? Have you ever confused love with financial rescue? Have you ever blamed the wrong person because it was easier? One lie put me in a storm at 15, but that storm forced me to learn how money really works. And sometimes, the person told to get out is the only one who knows how to come back stronger. If this story hit you, subscribe for more real-life stories about power, debt, and consequences, because in every family crisis, there's usually a contract no one fully understood.